Are you a home education parent who's wondering what GCSE English language board to choose for your child? Then you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Daisy. I'm one of the tutors of National Tutors, and I'm part of the team that runs the GCSE English language course. So I wanted to talk to you today about several different things because I often get asked by home education parents, which is the best exam board? What is the difference? Which one should my child do? Now, a lot of this comes down to personal preference, but I want to just run through really quickly a couple of things that might help you make the decision for your child. One of the questions I get asked often by home education parents is, should I choose a GCSE or an IGCSE? And what even is the difference? So the I in IGCSE just stands for international. So with IGCSE, we've got Cambridge International Education, or CAIE, and we've also got Pearson Edexcel. Now, there's also a GCSE for Pearson Edexcel. AQA is the kind of standard GCSE that a lot of schools do, and is most popular. And then you've also got OCR. So one of the important things to remember when it comes to IGCSEs is they have equal value to GCSEs. There's no difference when it comes to things like, whether a college will accept your child with an IGCSE or a GCSE, or when they get to uni, or even when they get into workplaces. So IGCSEs are good for a number of reasons. They're quite popular with home ed parents because you have a bit more flexibility over exam dates. They're all exam based, and they're usually quite a solid choice for home ed parents. So they're also really great if you have a child who you're home educating from abroad, as they are international. So there are exam centers all over the world. So some of the cons to the IGCSE are that there are less resources out there on the internet. However, I don't think that's entirely a con because in my experience of teaching basically every single exam board, the skills are all the same. The difference is really in the questions that are asked. And you can find out more about the questions that are asked by following to my GCSE English language walkthrough course. So the fact that there's less resources isn't really that big of a deal, except when it comes to Pearson Edexcel. So Pearson Edexcel is the only exam board that has an anthology. So a GCSE, again, equally valued as an IGCSE. It's like the UK standard. AQA is the usual one that most parents go for because it's what's mostly used in schools. Pros, unseen texts, they don't need to prepare anything in advance, popular resources. But as I said before, you can basically use the same resources as AQA or any other exam board because the skills are all the same. And actually, I help run a GCSE English language course on National Tutors where we cover all of those exam skills in great depth. So the cons, no seen texts. This again comes down to personal preference, but if you have a child who really likes to go into exams prepared, if that's something that might help them lessen their anxiety, I would say that this could be a con. Every exam board uses the same kind of structure, and you always have a creative writing task. This can be something like choose a picture and write a story based on the picture. It can be narrative writing or descriptive writing. Some exam boards separate those, but not all of them do. You also have a transactional writing task. Write a newspaper article, a speech, a letter based on your opinion to this audience. So the tasks on reading skills analysis, the skills your child needs to have are comprehension, analysis, summarizing skills. So comprehension, understanding what's going on, analysis, explaining how language and structure impact meaning, and then summarizing. So taking basically your comprehension skills and turning it into an answer in your own words. Most of the exam boards also have a comparison question. In my experience, this is where students mostly struggle because they have to compare two questions, and that can be based on what language structural devices that this are they both using differently, to what impact, or also it can be along the lines of what is different about each text in terms of comprehension. So Cambridge IGCSE does not have a comparison question. And that is really quite a nice benefit to that exam board because, as I said, this is one of the questions and one of the skills that in my experience, most students struggle with. So let's start talking about some of the IGCSEs. So Cambridge is a really nice choice because there are no seen text. So everything is unseen. Most exam boards split their GCSE in English language into non-fiction and fiction, but Cambridge does it a little bit differently. So they split it into reading and writing. So in the reading paper, you're going to have 3 different unseen texts, and your child needs to basically write a series of questions about these texts, including what I would call a creative critical task. That is where they have to rewrite what they've just read from a different perspective and in a different form. Paper 2, you have your creative and transactional writing tasks. The transactional writing task in this paper works a little bit differently because they give your child 2 unseen texts for them to use to gather opinions and information. And this can be really nice if you have a child who really struggles to generate ideas, because they will have a bit more of the content there that they can use. So Pearson Edexcel is actually one of my favorite examples for home ed students because there's a lot of things they can prepare in advance. Now, I'm going to caveat this with, if your child is starting the revision process for their exam in the summer, in February or March, this is not the exam board for them because it's quite content heavy because of the 20 text anthology, which is split into non-fiction and fiction. In fiction, you have a mixture of, you have 5 poems and 5 short stories or extracts. And in the fiction section, you have a variety of speeches, articles, and biographical writing. So if you have a child, again, who really likes to be prepared, who wants to know what they're expecting when they go into the exam, this is a really, really good choice. If you also have a child who doesn't want to do English literature and language GCSEs, but still want some literature elements to their English language paper, this is the one for them because they can use a lot of those skills from literature on the second half of the paper. So yeah, so for paper 1, you have your unseen text prepare, and you also have your transactional writing task. So you'll have a comparison question between an unseen text and also one of your seen texts to compare. And then in paper 2, you have your fiction question, which is a kind of a general peel paragraph question about the poem or the short story they've read. And then you'll also have your creative writing question. So again, great if your child wants to be prepared, bad if they don't have enough time, or they're not really that bothered about being prepared and they'd rather just kind of learn the skills and go in and do it. But it can be a really nice choice for home ed parents and students. So next thing we have Pearson Edexcel GCSE. So this one is where we start getting into the GCSE kind of really standard practice structure. With IGCSEs, they do things a little bit differently, but what we're going to see from Pearson, AQA, and OCR is that really they all do the same thing. They just maybe do it in slightly different orders in terms of paper 1 and paper 2. So this is where we get split into our non-fiction and fiction. Paper 1, fiction. Paper 2, non-fiction. This is all unseen texts. And it's a very standard exam, really. It's kind of, you've got your creative writing task, your transactional writing task, you have a comparison task, and it's all kind of the standard structure of a GCSE English language paper, basically. Here, less resources available compared to, say, AQA. But again, all of these papers that I'm mentioning, I go through in a little walkthrough in my GCSE English language exam paper walkthrough. So they'll all be covered in that course. AQA GCSE. This is what I would say again is the UK standard. It's what majority of state schools will use. And that's for a good reason. There are a lot of really great resources out there for AQA GCSE English, including the National Tutors GCSE English language course. However, again, although that is targeted largely at AQA, the skills cover every single exam board because all of these exams come down to the same set of fundamental skills. So it's split into 2 papers. Paper 1, fiction, paper 2, non-fiction, and again, all unseen texts. We have OCR GCSE. Again, really standard. The GCSEs compared to the IGCSEs are really quite the same. Non-fiction and fiction, all unseen texts. And again, you've got your transactional and your creative writing. So the GCSEs are all pretty similar. The IGCSEs have some fundamental differences because of the fact that they are tailored at an international market. But really, any of these exam boards, you can't go wrong. I would say in terms of difficulty, every exam board is pretty much the same level of difficulty. It will just depend on your learner. And the great thing as a home education parent is you can choose the exam board based on what they want. So I would really highly recommend that you check out the GCSE English language exam paper walkthrough course that I've run, and you try and figure out what your child wants, what they need, and then choose from there. So that's everything from me today. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you on any of the GCSE courses on National Tutors. Thank you. Bye-bye.